My name is Alberta Holloway, but everyone in this town has called me Bertie for 58 years. I live in the same cedar shingle house in Maine where I raised my son and where I said goodbye to my husband Frank 7 years ago. Life is quiet. I knit, I volunteer at the library, and I look forward to holidays. This Christmas, I had the fruitcake from Gregory's favorite bakery shipped special. I wrapped gifts for my grandkids. I was ready for the laughter. Then the text came. Not a call. Words on a screen that froze my hands. Mom, we just want a peaceful Christmas this year. It's better if you don't come. You know that feeling when a door you didn't even hear close suddenly locks? If you're nodding along, if your heart has ever sunk from a few quiet words, then you're in the right place. Stay with me. Before I go on, I'd love to know if you're watching from somewhere cozy today. Could you take a second to say hello in the comments? Just type where you're joining me from. And if this story is already touching a nerve you like, would mean so much. It helps me know I'm not just speaking into the void. Thank you. My fingers trembled over the phone screen. A peaceful Christmas. The words seemed so reasonable, so final. I read them again, and then a third time, as if the meaning might change. The cheerful wrapping paper on the coffee table suddenly looked garish. The specially ordered fruitcake still in its box felt like a monument to my own foolishness. I typed back, I understand. Enjoy your peaceful Christmas. Love, Mom. I sent it before I could second-guess the polite, wounded tone. I placed the phone down carefully as if it were made of glass. The silence in the house was no longer comfortable. It was accusatory. I looked over at Frank's picture on the mantel, his kind eyes behind wire-frame glasses. Well, Frank, I thought to myself, it's just you and me again. And the other secret, I suppose. A secret that felt heavier and more irrelevant than ever in that moment. I needed air, or maybe just a distraction from the ache blooming in my chest. I did what we all do when we're hurt and confused. I reached for my tablet, telling myself I was just checking the library's holiday hours. Scrolling through social media was a rare thing for me, a rabbit hole I usually avoided. But that day I was desperate for any connection, even a digital one. I went to my daughter-in-law Pamela's profile, and there it was, posted 2 days ago. A bright, glossy photo of my son, my daughter-in-law, and my 2 grandchildren, Amelia and Leo, all clad in expensive-looking ski gear standing in front of a massive timber-framed lodge. Snow-capped mountains stretched behind them. Pamela's caption was a punch to the gut. So excited for our first big family Christmas getaway. No stress, just us and the slopes, new, traditions, peace, and quiet. The date stamp confirmed it. They had planned this. They had booked this luxurious trip while letting me believe I was coming to their home for a quiet dinner. Peace and quiet wasn't about the kids being overwhelmed. It was a luxury item, and I was not included in the package. A hot wave of shame washed over me first. Had I been too clingy, too much? Then it receded, leaving behind a colder, harder understanding. I remembered the subtle comments over the last year. Pamela mentioning how much work their new, bigger house was to maintain. Gregory asking with false casualness if I had considered selling this old place and moving into one of those lovely senior apartments with amenities. They saw me as a responsibility, a potential burden, an elderly woman in a fading house living on a modest pension and the small income from my knitting. The thought was so insulting it dried my tears. I stood up, my back straight. The pain was still there, a deep ache, but it was now joined by something else. A spark of defiance. I walked to the basement door, a place I usually avoided because it still smelled like Frank's sawdust and oil. I flicked on the light and descended into the cool, dim space. Frank's workbench was still there, covered in a dusty sheet. My heart squeezed, but I didn't come for nostalgia. I went to the far wall to an old green metal cabinet that looked like it held paint cans. I took a small key from my everyday necklace, a key I had worn for 7 years. It unlocked the bottom drawer. Inside were no tools, just a single gray, legal-sized file box. I carried it upstairs as if it were fragile, placing it on the kitchen table under the bright light. I lifted the lid. Inside were folders, neatly labeled. Portfolio statements, trust documents, correspondence with Samuel Higgins Esquire. Frank and Samuel had been friends since college. Samuel, the brilliant, discreet financial advisor, and Frank, the quietly brilliant software engineer who had a hunch about his friend's startup. That hunch, an early investment made with money from selling his own patent, had turned into something neither of us ever dreamed of. The last summary statement from just a month ago listed assets under management with a value just over $8 million. We had never touched the principal. We lived on Frank's salary and later our combined Social Security and my small earnings. We liked our life. We wanted Gregory to build his own. We thought we were protecting him from what money could do to a person's ambition. The irony was a bitter taste in my mouth. They were distancing themselves from a woman they perceived as needy, while I sat on a fortune they knew nothing about. I closed the box. My grief had transformed completely. It was no longer a passive sorrow. It was a focused energy. I picked up my phone and scrolled past Gregory's name. I found Samuel's number, the one labeled Sam H., legal. He answered on the second ring. "Bertie, everything all right? You usually only call on my birthday." His voice was warm with concern. I took a steadying breath. "Samuel, I need to change some plans. I need access to funds, a significant amount, and I need it done quickly and quietly." Samuel, to his credit, asked no prying questions. He simply said, "Tell me what you need, Bertie." And I did. I became a general of kindness. Through Samuel, we set up an anonymous donation to cover a truly spectacular Christmas feast at the Pine Grove Senior Center for every resident and every staff member who had to work that day. The only condition was that I be allowed to volunteer as a server. I reached out personally to Maria Rivera from the grocery store whose husband had just been laid off. I told a little white lie that a local charity had paired me with their family, and I arrived with a car full of groceries, a pre-cooked ham, and gift cards tucked inside cards for the children. I invited Mr. Henry from the library who lost his wife last spring, and Mrs. Edith Peabody, whose children are always too busy to visit from the West Coast. I even invited young Sophia Maria's college-age daughter who always had a bright smile and good conversation. Then I turned my own modest home into a wonderland. With Samuel's help, I hired a local caterer to prepare a feast that would put any magazine spread to shame. I had 2 beautiful fir trees delivered and decorated them not just with my old ornaments, but with hundreds of new twinkling lights. I bought thoughtful personal gifts for every single person I had invited. The money felt like a tool for the first time, not a secret. It felt like Frank's steady hand on my shoulder saying, "Go on, Bertie, make something good." Christmas morning dawned clear and bitterly cold, the sun glaring off pristine snow. By midday, my house was no longer quiet. It was filled with the warm, chaotic symphony of people who didn't know they were part of a plan. The dining table, extended with 2 rented leaves, groaned under platters of food. Mr. Henry and Mrs. Edith were deep in conversation about bird watching. The Rivera children's laughter echoed from the living room where they played with new toys. Sophia was helping me carry pies from the kitchen, her face glowing. When the van from Pine Grove arrived with several of my friends from there, the party truly felt complete. We ate, we talked, we told stories. I told them about Frank's terrible attempt at making eggnog one year. Mrs. Edith played carols on my old piano. Before dessert, I tapped my glass gently. The room settled. My heart hammered, but not with nervousness, with fullness. "I just wanted to say thank you," I began, my voice surprisingly steady, "for coming here today, for sharing your stories and your laughter. This house has needed it. I have needed it. Some of you know my Frank is gone, but having you all here, it makes the love he left behind feel bigger, not smaller. So, to Frank, to new friends, and to finding family in unexpected places." Everyone raised a glass. In that moment, surrounded by genuine warmth, the sting of Gregory's text felt a million miles away. Later, as Sophia helped clean up, she took a few pictures. The beautiful table, the smiling faces, me laughing with Mr. Henry by the fireplace. "Do you mind if I post these, Bertie?" she asked. "It's just so perfect." I smiled, swept up in the joy. "Of course, dear." I had no idea what that simple permission would unleash. The next morning, I was luxuriating in the peaceful aftermath, a cup of coffee in hand, savoring the memory of the laughter still echoing in the walls. My phone silent the day before erupted. It was Gregory. His voice was strained, a weird blend of confusion and urgency. "Mom, I saw some pictures online. Sophia Rivera tagged Amelia in a post. Where were you yesterday?" "Whose house was that? It looked huge." I took a slow sip of coffee. "Oh, that was here, sweetheart. I had a few friends over for Christmas." The silence on his end was deafening. "At your house," he finally sputtered. "Mom, that dining room, the crystal, the silver, who are these people who paid for all that?" I could hear the wheels turning, the calculation in his tone. I kept my voice gentle, almost breezy. "They're my friends, Gregory. My community. We had a lovely time. As for paying, your father and I were always prudent. We made some wise choices a long time ago." I let that sentence hang in the air between us, a delicate, weighted thing. His demeanor shifted instantly. The defensiveness melted into a syrupy, anxious concern. "Mom, we didn't know. We were worried about you being alone. We should have included you. Pam and I feel terrible." In the background, I heard Pamela's voice higher pitched, saying, "Tell her we'll call her later. We love her." I felt nothing. No victory, just a profound, weary sadness. "It's quite all right," I said, my tone even. "You wanted a peaceful Christmas. I hope you had one. I certainly did." He began to babble about visiting soon, about needing to talk about making things right. I cut in politely, but firmly. "We'll see Gregory. I have quite a busy schedule with my friends now. Give my love to the children." I ended the call. I placed the phone back on the table. The anxiety was now theirs to hold. In the weeks that followed, the calls came frequently. Gregory and Pamela's newfound concern was a transparent performance. Their questions always circled back, however artfully, to finances, to Frank's wise choices, to the management of my affairs. I was polite but immovable. I began spending more time with Maria Rivera, helping her husband with his job search. I started a weekly knitting circle with some of the ladies from Pine Grove. With Samuel's guidance, I revised my will and the trust. The bulk of the estate would create the Frank Holloway Community Fund. A smaller portion would be held in trust for Amelia and Leo, accessible only for education or to start a business bypassing Gregory and Pamela entirely. One afternoon, while having tea with Mrs. Edith, my phone buzzed with another text from Gregory. "Just thinking of you, Mom. Maybe we could come up for a weekend. The kids miss you." I showed the text to Edith. She peered over her glasses. "Thinking of you or thinking of what you have?" she asked bluntly. I smiled a real one. I typed back, "My weekends are quite booked with friends. Let's plan a video call with the children soon." I put the phone away, screen down. The greatest lesson wasn't about the money. It was about time. I had spent years parceling out my time, hoping for scraps of attention from my son's family. Now my time was my own, a currency I spent on people who valued my presence, not my potential. The loneliness didn't vanish, but it was surrounded now by a chorus of companionship. I had built a new table, and at it, I found a seat where I was truly wanted. The healing wasn't in becoming rich. It was in becoming real. It was in admitting the deep hurt of that text message, then choosing not to let that hurt define my story. I learned that family isn't a title you're given, it's a connection you build day by day with presence and kindness. My value was never in what I could give or leave behind to my son. It was in the quiet peace I found within myself and the warmth I could offer to others. That secret fortune gave me options, yes, but my true freedom came from a different source entirely. It came from the courage to stop begging for a seat at a table where I wasn't welcomed, and to instead build a whole new feast of my own. So I leave you with this. Has there ever been a moment in your life, a quiet rejection or a closed door that ultimately pushed you to build something better, something truer for yourself? I would love to hear your story in the comments below. If this tale of finding family in unexpected places resonated with you, please give it a like. It lets me know these shared experiences matter. And if you want to join me for more stories about quiet strength and new beginnings, consider subscribing and sharing this with someone who might need to hear it today. Thank you for listening, for being part of this community here. And remember, no matter where you are, your peace and your table are yours to create. Be well.